It's unusual. Okay, again, that's not really going to answer the question for you. What is X in this model, though? Salary, team salary, right? X variable is team payroll. So when Minitab gives you a team with an X beside it, or an observation with an X beside it, it's telling you this is an observation that has an unusual X value. It's kind of telling you you've got an observation out on an island by itself. Their X value is far away from everybody else's X value. It's not necessarily telling you that you did a bad job predicting for that team, but it's telling you you've got a team or a house or whatever that's kind of out on an island by itself. So if we look at this picture, do you see a dot that has an X value salary that's kind of sticking out by itself with nobody else around it? This team way out here, right? This team way out here had a team payroll of close to $200 million. Now this was 2004 payrolls. Their team payroll is up close to $200 million. The next highest team was about 140 million. So there's a huge gap between the second highest X value and the highest X value. That's what Minitab is alerting me to when it gives me an X. So in your house price model, for instance, house size and house price, if it labels a house with an X, it's telling you you've got a house that's either a lot bigger than the other houses in the sample, or a whole lot smaller than the other houses in the sample. It's telling you the X value is kind of far away from everybody else in the model. If we were doing study hours and grade, and it labeled something with an X, that would say that student is either studying a lot more than all the other students in the sample, or a lot less than the other students. It's just telling you you've got somebody out on an island by themselves. Why is that a problem? Does it look like the line did a bad job of predicting that team's wins? Did we miss by a whole lot? Not really. I mean, if you look at how far off the line, we predicted they would win up here, they actually won right here. So we didn't really miss that team by a whole lot. That's not the problem with that team. The problem with that team, and by the way, given this was the early 2000s, that is the New York Yankees. That would now be the Los Angeles Dodgers, but back in the early 2000s, the Yankees outspent everybody. So the Yankees spent so much more than the other teams. Minitab is just alerting us to this. You've got somebody out there on an island by themselves. The reason that is dangerous, let me go back to my spreadsheet for a second here. Yeah, there's the Yankees with their $183 million payroll. They actually won 101 games. Well, let's say the Yankees kind of did like the Diamondbacks. All the Yankees players got injured. Let's say the Yankees, instead of winning, remember 101 for me? Can y'all remember that? 101. Instead of winning 101 games, let's say the Yankees won 11 games. They had a terrible year, the worst year in the history of baseball. Do you think that will change our regression? Yeah, one team, but we got 29 other teams in the model. Look at the scatter plot though. If the Yankees had this horrible year and only won 11 games, look at what happens to my line. Lisa, you were asking about this a few minutes ago. If I point to that regression line now, it tells me the slope is negative 0.11. So what would that suggest? The more I spend, the less I win. In fact, every $1 million I spend, I'm going to win 0.11 fewer games. Why did the line change that much? Because the Yankees being way out here by themselves, that gives them a lot of leverage on this line. If they do terrible, that's going to pull the whole line down toward them. The reason is I don't have anybody else around them. I don't have anybody else to kind of cancel the Yankee effect. On the other hand, I'm going to go back to my data sheet here for a second. 101, is that the Yankees?
Yes, 101.
101? Let's change that back to 101 and let's pick the Braves. They were kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of salary. Let's say the Braves only won 11 games. And if you're a Braves fan, you swear there were years they only won 11 games. Let's change their win total to 11. Now the difference being, the Yankees were way out there on the end by themselves. The Braves are kind of in the middle of that big group in the middle. If we look at the regression line now, the slope has changed from 0.22 to about 0.18. So the slope did flatten out a little bit. Can you spot the Braves in this picture? Yeah, I mean, they're pretty easy to see down there. But notice the overall regression line didn't change as much as it did when the Yankees won 11 games. Why did the Yankees winning 11 games have a much bigger effect than the Braves went? Because the Yankees were out there by themselves. You didn't have anybody else around them. So when they had that terrible year, it pulled the whole line down. The Braves are kind of here in the middle of all these teams. So when they had a terrible year, it did pull the line down a little bit, but not like, it's kind of like a seesaw. If somebody comes up and sits on the end of the seesaw and you're in balance, what happens to the seesaw? You clunk real hard on the ground. But if you're balanced and somebody comes and sits kind of toward the middle, the seesaw might move, but it's not going to move like it did when the guy on the end sat on it. I don't know if that helps or not. That's what Minitab is alerting you to when it gives you an X beside an observation. It's telling you you've got somebody that's way out here by themselves, and they could pull the line way down or way up if they had an unusually good or bad year. In your house price model, if they give you a house with an X, that might mean you have a house that's way out here bigger than all the other houses. What's the danger? If that house has an unusually high price or low price, it can pull the whole line down or up. Somebody in the middle of the pack, though, will not have that big of an effect. So that's what Minitab is alerting you to when it gives you those X's and R's.
I just think it's funny how the Braves do that against all the other teams that do. That's scary.
Yeah. But you'll also actually, that reminded me of something else if I can find the right scatter plot. Yeah. This is the one when the Yankees did terrible, right? Does that line seem to do an okay job of fitting the rest of the dots now? I think it does a pretty terrible job of fitting the other dots. If you took the Yankees out and said that's the best line to describe these dots, it doesn't do a good. Without the Yankees, it looks like the line should be kind of right through here. But because the Yankees are way out there, they're pulling the whole line down to try to fit them. And it does a terrible job of fitting all the other dots. With the Braves example, though, yeah, when the Braves had the terrible year, you know, it still kind of does a decent job of hitting those other dots because, again, the Braves didn't have the leverage the Yankees did, being out there on the end. That's what Minitab is alerting us to. It's not necessarily saying you need to get rid of those observations. But if Minitab pops up, it tells you you have an X or an R. Those are ones you want to go look at and see if there's something going on with them. We'll talk more in the next chapter about kind of what to do with those. But right now, that's all you need to know. What does it mean when Minitab gives you an X or an R beside an observation? But you need to tell me what's unusual about it. If it's got an X, what's unusual about it?
X means if there's one out there by itself.
It's out there on its own with nobody else around it. What does the R tell you is unusual?
Means you missed it by
You missed it by a lot more than you thought you. And specifically, I don't know, I might want you to be able to do this. What specifically is unusual about team number 30 here? Sean, you said we missed it by a lot. How much did we miss it by? We over-predicted by about 30 wins, right? That's my prediction. That's my actual value. All right. So what I was suggesting a minute ago, well, 45 minutes ago, I have this posted in Blackboard for you, the actual data set, but I also have this PDF posted here. And if you look at that PDF, and actually there's one thing here I need to mention. Okay, evidently I didn't do payroll. That's even better. I like this even better than I thought. I didn't do the payroll model here. I did 3 others using that same data set. The first one I did wins, but instead of payroll, I did wins versus home runs. So if I were you, I would open up that Minitab data set and I would run the regression for wins versus home runs and make sure your output looks like my output. And then I illustrate some of the important numbers in this model. Now, the one I will tell you, don't worry about, because I decided to put this off until the next chapter. I discussed the F value and the P value here. I've decided we're going to put that off until the next chapter. So don't worry about this discussion. But this discussion is important. It's pointing out R squared, and it's telling you what R squared means. Then we go down here, and we do a t-test for home runs. What do we need to know? HO, HA, the t-value, the t-stat, and the p-value. So I'm highlighting the important numbers in here and telling you what those numbers mean. So if I were you, I would open up that Minitab data set, do this regression, make sure you can get the same regression I did, and then look at these numbers until you feel comfortable discussing what the numbers mean. And I did the same thing down here with here's my B1, and I explained exactly what the B1 means. Anyway.
If that's on Blackboard?
Yeah.
Okay.